I want to introduce you, my colleagues, and something that I can express is how grateful I am to be interviewing these guys. So first of all, I want to introduce Mr. White, Wilson White, head of the government affairs and public policy for several key business units at Google. He's my boss too. By the way, he's part of the planning committee of the Festival Diaspora 2024. And please, everybody, welcome without. I want to introduce you for all founder and CEO of the Techademics, a technology company focused on innovation in education, social impact, philanthropy, and a no-profit sector. So please, ladies and gentlemen. As you saw, our panel is about AI, fueling inclusive and sustainable growth. As I told you, I work at Google too, so it's a great topic for us, a discussion that not just as Blacks, women, Latinos, so how not just we, but everybody's going to be included in the AI that already born global. So how can we not just AI born global, but born inclusive too as well? So I want to start it. The first, but make the more difficult question, I guess. But what do you think that is the main challenge that we have in developing and commercializing AI and in all kind of business, so small business, great business, and big techs too. So
I think one of the biggest challenges we have right now for commercializing AI is really focusing on AI as a strategy for a solution for a problem, and not doing it because it's in our common thought process, because it's everywhere, because we're hearing about all the different GPT tools. It's really around what problems are we trying to solve and making sure it's impacting us personally, and then also our organizations that we're part of. I think one of the things that I think about every day is how AI can change my life personally and make me more productive. Let's start there. And really make it personal to me and make it personal to the work that I'm doing, because I see it as such a great tool for opportunity for me to have deep understanding and thoughts around how AI is impacting myself. Then from there, I can think about how to make sure it's affecting my company, it's affecting my team in a proper way that can make me work faster, work smarter, more productive, and also just really consolidate all the knowledge that's coming together for AI that can use the AI tool to make life easier on a day-to-day basis. So.
Well, let me first give a huge shout out to Augusto, who is not a native English speaker, but is standing in front of this big wheel of a broom. Yeah.
You got a little bit proud.
So thank you for doing that. I agree with Al in terms of some of the ways of the frameworks we're thinking about the commercialization of AI. But AI is a big fad now. Everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. Everyone's talking about what it means for our lives. But it's been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
At Google, we've been having AI commercializing our products for over a decade. So when you're searching on Google search and you're getting the predictive analytics, you can see your search before you finish typing it in. That's AI that's behind that now. When you're using Google Maps and you're being able to understand how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B, artificial intelligence and those models are behind that. But what we saw recently in the past, I guess, year and a half, 2 years, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, it's really the first time that we had like this direct human interaction with large language models. And that's really where you see a lot of the hype and the fad that we're seeing around AI today. But I think that is one of the challenges we're commercializing with, is people seeing the value, as Al said, that they would want to pay for AI. Because a lot of those features and these benefits are the things that we've been experiencing over the past more than a decade.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing how the new generations are. I'm just 22 years old, and we don't know how to use the AI yet, but I'm sure you have little kids too.
Yeah.
You have to. So how 10 years from now they're going to use an AI for something that we're even imagined yet? So, yeah, just saying that. And talking about business opportunities, what you see, what are the main business opportunities you see intersection AI and inclusive sustainable growth, and how can make it happen? We are mainly talking people that live in the United States, but in what kind of business, what kind of country, and mainly international kind of affairs and economics transactions too. So,
Yeah, there's so many business opportunities, I think, for depending on the sector and the type of work you do. For me personally, it's really it's been a great equalizer of sorts. Our team is thinking about working with developers and software engineers in Argentina and Medellin, Colombia. AI is a great tool like Google Translate does, where you can be the great equalizer on language. So now I can hire developers who don't have strong English and make sure that that isn't a barrier to entry to more opportunities in the work that we're doing. I also think that it's something that can always be productive to make sure that I'm pushing myself to just work harder as a leader and make sure that I'm actually doing the productive things that I need to do to just create more capacity and to move faster and velocity as well.
Yeah. And talking about this kind of opportunities, how we can see how public policy can merge with AI and create good kind of public policy for AI too. So not just thinking about the private sector against the public sector, but private sector, public sector, and civil society working together for get AI in the best way possible for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's a hugely important question because AI will be so meaningful and impactful in all of our lives that you have to have some guardrails. You have to have some rules of engagement so that we can maximize the benefits from the technology while mitigating as much as possible the downsides. And there are a lot of benefits, but there are a lot of downsides as well. So I think this is a public policy issue. You've already seen some governments around the world begin to think about regulation for AI. And I would say that I think it's just too important of topic not to regulate, but it's also important to regulate it in a smart way so that we don't stop the innovation. And there's huge benefits that can come from it. But we want to make sure that bad folks aren't able to combat that.
Yeah. I was seeing something comparing AI to werewolves. So when it starts to be beat up, it's going to be a whole way to developing countries, developing persons too. And so how can we ensure that the AI is going to be for everybody and everybody to grow that? So actually, we might think the main kind of collaborations that we have, just like I said, the private sector and the public sector. But how companies, the private sector can collaborate itself to build a strong development of the AI, just like you said.
Yeah.
Hire someone in Argentina that do not speak so good English, but trying to make it global in the best way possible.
Yeah. That's the tough one. I think we talk about AI policy. We're thinking about the large level of government. We're thinking about what companies like Google, OpenAI, and others are doing. But if you're an entrepreneur or even a single consultant who works by yourself, you have to think about your own policies too and how you use AI. Because a lot of us are using that to prompt thoughts and get a good starting point in the work. But the right levels of governance on what you put out to the world, as far as letting AI put facts out that you maybe didn't fact check, that we aren't leveraging it the right way to make sure that it represents who we are and itself and put our voice to it as well. So I think about that a lot around from a policy perspective, and then in the use of how we use AI, that it's still its infancy for the work that GPTs we're using now, even though, like Wilson said, has been around for decades. So now that we've been given that power recently in the last 18 months, how are we going to leverage that in the right way to, if I have team members who are using that and using prompts all day to make themselves more productive, how am I going to put different guardrails and also systems in place to make sure they're productive for a team perspective as well? I think also for technologists as well, I have a team of developers, we have data folks as well. It's important for them to see how they can improve their workflows and work even faster and better, but also giving them a good balance to make sure that they can be who they are themselves using the AI tools. because in the day, the AI tools are trained on these models that are coming from a lot of the historical data and context that some may have institutional racism involved. Some may have data points that are not factual. So now we've codified all these things to the point. So we're relying on them to give us voice in places where it may not be the true authentic things we need as well.
And I'm glad to be here sitting with you because you both are leaders and you are leading the AI to a better way possible for everybody. And how do you, talking about careers now, how do you feel to be sitting in a position about being CEO, being a vice president, so you can take decisions for the benefits for everybody? How to feel that, you know?
I'm gonna let the CEO start, but I'll
CEO, executive interpreter, VP at Google.
I'll take a stab at it. I think the most important thing, I think, is for each of us to embrace the journey that we're on now. There are some scary parts, I think, with AI. I think the opportunity is just enormous, and that each of us should not fear AI, but embrace it. Get involved with it now, both in the development, but also how we're using it in our daily lives. But from a career standpoint, I think every career will have some intersection with AI and this new wave of technology that we're seeing. There's a lot of conversation now about whether AI is going to take jobs from folks. I'm of the belief that the answer to that is probably yes. Some jobs, right? Because things could just be done more efficiently or more productivity using some of those tools. But new jobs will be created as a result of this technology. And you go back maybe 10 years ago, the idea of a social media manager was not a job. Certainly not a job when I was coming out of college, or 20 years ago. But it's a new job now because of what the technology allowed creative people to come up for it. I imagine AI is going to be the second one. It's going to create productivity in a lot of areas, but it's going to create new opportunities. And from a career perspective, we should all just be on that cutting edge so our communities can benefit.
Chad, you can? Perfect. Thank you. Well, that is so spot on what you said. I think I was having a conversation with some people about AI, and they tried to connect it back to the .com boom when all the website, when Google search came to be. And I actually think it's bigger than that as far as job opportunity and economic growth. I would go way back to the Industrial Revolution almost. Right? You think about the things, the steam engines, the railroads, all these different factories, and how whether you're in Detroit or whether you're in an industrial place in South America, one of these big cities, that there's so much opportunity and jobs were created based off of that I think it'll be more of that happening than more job loss. What I think, one of the things that's challenging in the United States, and I'm sure that's the same in other places, is are we going to reskill our labor, our people in our communities to be able to take advantage of AI? Because that's going to be one of the hugest things. I know we have challenge in our education system, and we have a very antiquated traditional way of doing it, but being able to reskill everyone to be able to do what they do with an AI lens is going to really have huge factors on the opportunity, making sure the impact on a positive, especially for our communities as well. Anybody?
Thinking about what kind of can view AI responsible for everybody. AI is born just like a few years ago, but as I said, ChatGPT brought us something that it's kind of human. It's kind of chat. Yeah. What is your greatest fear about AI in the future? It's like, if you don't make it responsible now, what kind of challenge we may face in maybe not just 10 years, but 4, 5 years, and bring into a kind of election scenario too, because information and how we can deal with that.
So it's a good question. I'm the eternal optimist. I'll talk about some fears, but then I'll bring it back to positivity. I'm very positive on AI, but probably a few fears, if I can do like maybe 2 or 3 fears. So one, I think ultimately this is where technology is going, and I fear that if our communities aren't getting in now, we're going to be left behind. This trade is moving, and it's moving very, very, very quickly. The level of productivity, the level of just economic growth that will stem from the development and deployment of this technology is too enormous. And that's one of my fears. We don't embrace that opportunity, then we can be left behind, creating an even bigger technological divide between our communities. And then the second one I would say is if you asked me 5 years ago where we would be in terms of the ability to have large language models in front of humans and humans interacting with it in a meaningful way, 5 years ago I would tell you we're probably 10 years out from that. But that's happening now, and it's happening at lightning speed. So I think it's moving faster than even people who are deep in this space once started to move. And so that's another fear of mine, is that the pace at which this technology is moving is very, very fast. And then lastly, war. And where I live doing government affairs globally and looking at the geopolitics behind countries around the world, how they're thinking about what AI means to their own national security, their own national interest. There is an AI risk when it comes to military applications of this technology. And that to me is a great fear, given the potential power of this technology in that space. Now, anything else?
Yeah. No, those are great points, Wilson. What I'll say is I have a couple things that I think that I'm thinking about that I want to be aware of about AI. One is just from behavioral and then people relational. Typically, information is such a powerful thing. That's AI is just a strategy to get to us in an easier way. Typically, some of these things you think about the codification of bias, it's around people and interactions, relationships, conversations. AI is a technical tool giving us that same information sometimes. So one of my fears is that some of those potential biases can be passed off because it's a computer talking that, right? And not a person. Or not that someone that you can see their lived experience or context and be able to layer that on top of the message you're getting and information. So I think being able to make sure that those large language models that are behind the scenes are feeding this information have been properly vetted and have the right people at the table to actually make sure that they're ensuring our best interests are in it as well. But I think the second thing I would say is one of my fears is how do we bring the cost down to actually create these language models. I think that's one of the things that we really think about is can a small business do that or a technology team to be able to do that in a way that creates very unique tools that are built off of things that are diverse thinkers or diverse approaches to the technology. So I think that'll be really important. Not as a fear, but as an opportunity as well.
I think small businesses are important to build this kind of regional and city kind of personalized AI system for the city, so everybody get involved. So just like we're saying that we're going to the cost down, but we're already seeing that the kind of the youth, the young people are already using AI tools in their computers and for doing their homework. So I think bringing this kind of democratic AI, open system of AI, so everybody can build, everybody can learn that too. So as Wilson said, we're gonna have some mistakes, some bad guys all over the way, but the developing that we are in front of, I guess I'm pretty sure that in the future, our efforts are gonna asking, do you remember when we do not have, kind of ChatGPT or Gemini, because it's revolutionary.
Yeah.
So now we want to open to the audience. If you have any kind of questions, please feel free, open your hand. Lift your hand, so we're gonna bring the mic to you. So, sure.
Hi, thank you. So happy to be here. I'm Julia Michaels, and I'm actually working with Al Motley. And since there's so much talk about Black entrepreneurship at this festival, I'd like to ask Al how you started your company.
Great question, Julia. I did not ask you that question. It was interesting. I knew that I had entrepreneurial aspirations, but I was serving as an executive in technology for school systems, nonprofits in the United States. It was so challenging for under-resourced organizations like if I was working for a school or a nonprofit. Technology wasn't at the forefront. It was always the program. It was always the impact. It was always the students, which it should be 100% of the time. But I think there was a mindset at that time that the operational funding couldn't go towards innovation, thinking about what the classroom of the future will look like, thinking about how do we revolutionize fundraising for philanthropy. And then also when you're in those conversations, a lot of time your technology vendors are driving your strategy, and when you're in those organizations, and that could be a good thing if you have a good thought partner, but also it could be an issue if they don't have your best interests at heart. So at that point, I decided to start Techademics because I wanted to be a technology thought partner for social impact organizations and put their best interests at the heart of the work. And then balance that with just making sure that learning and academic approaches and the continuous learning of technology was always at the forefront, no matter what sector, what industry you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur. So that's the work that's the reason why I started, just to be at the forefront of that and just be a good partner for the different clients that we've served over the last 8 years.
That's fine. Shake. Please. Thoughts?
Thanks, Alan Wilson. I am curious, you mentioned in the social impact space, a lot of organizations seeking to have impact are very under-resourced. What are some of the most creative or effective ways you've seen or can see AI kind of helping expedite some of those mission-driven organizations that maybe don't have huge capacity and budget? And I know you talked about affordability, but even if that wasn't a factor, like what are some of the creative ways in which it can enhance and increase capacity for mission-driven?
Yeah, I'll take a start at it, and then maybe you could add to it. I think one of the biggest areas where we're seeing this with is in how AI could actually drive down operational costs. So Google.org, that's Google's philanthropic arm. We do a lot about investing in nonprofits and social organizations. And when we get the budget request or like the picture slip there, very often a big portion of the budget is operational costs. And what we've seen with some of the AI tools that we've released already is the productivity that comes with that. Being able to keep track of your donors and have donor outreach. A lot of the work around just tracking outcomes from the organization's operations. These things are greatly reduced with AI tools at very, very, very low cost, right? And so what we're doing at Google already, we're doing this in the education space. So AI for education is a big area where we're seeing this, but we're also seeing this in organizations that are in the public health space as well. So I think that's one big area where this can help organizations that are not heavily resourced drive down some of their costs.
That's a great point, Wilson. I would say one of the things that we're seeing, just as a good starting point with a lot of leaders, or if you're working on social impact or any type of organization, is using some of these tools to increase your productivity during the day, especially in meetings, especially if you're in a Zoom or something or a Teams product. There's really amazing tools. Yeah, or Google Meet. Yes. My preferred tool. But
Always working, man. Always.
there you go. No, but to that point, one of the most powerful, I would say there's two tools that I think have really ramped up my productivity, but also I would say try it. Google has Notebook LM. It's a tool that actually organizes your day, your notes real time. And actually, if you're in a meeting or someone joins it late, you can just exit questions. Just like, what did I miss? Or the action items. Was my name brought up while I was waiting for a minute? Those things are so critical in when you're in meeting, because what I learned about social organizations and the work, our time is so valuable in maximizing every moment, especially your meetings all day. Sometimes you don't have time for processing it, coming up with the next steps. What are you doing as far as who do you need to triage some kind of thing that pops up when you're in the middle of a meeting and you're getting checks on the side? These tools can help with that in a way that's amazing, and it's changed the way I think about real time kind of like choreograph my day. Yeah. So I would say there's so many tools like that. I would say be careful though, because be very aware of your state and local privacy laws. So if you're adding them to your Google Meet or your Zoom sessions or whatever you're going to do, make sure you're making sure that stuff is really upfront. People are participating in a way to know what's happening. But they're amazing tools to keep your day almost like it's almost like a real-time assistant or someone always in your ear and right there for you at all times.
Any more questions, please?
Ed Hill, pleasure being here. I'm glad you guys up here. Tutorials, AI for beginners, and how do we master the fundamentals?
Get a couple of areas where we're working in the space. So one is the world's largest learning platform is YouTube. And I would encourage everyone who's a beginner and really trying to understand the fundamentals of AI to really use YouTube as a free learning tool to get up to speed, even for beginners. But also what Google has been doing for the past several years now is really investing in skill building in AI. Because as Al said earlier in his comments, one of the things that we have to ensure as we continue down this journey is that the people who are developing the technology reflects the people who want to benefit from the technology. So we've been investing in certification programs. We could send around the information of that at some point. Where anyone for free can go in and actually get certification in like basic data analytics and the types of fundamental building blocks for how to be comfortable with AI technology. So that's a couple of ways I think for even beginners to have like tutorials and models where you can start getting your head around what this technology is, how it works, how it can be useful in my line of work, etc.
Yeah, Agent.
Hi, my name is Lisa Rice. I'm with the National Fair Health Alliance. I have a very provocative question. What is AI? And I ask the question because one of the things that my organization does is we work on legislation to help govern AI. And we work with the federal regulators in the U.S. to implement policies to help govern AI. And I noticed that as we start working on these policy initiatives, the definition of AI keeps getting more and more narrow to the point where some industry representatives are now insisting that machine learning is not AI and should not be covered by these rules. So it's a very provocative question. I get different answers, and I'm just interested from in your perspectives about what is the definition of AI?
So I'm probably going to be my background is in engineering, so I'll take this from a very, very technical standpoint because AI at its core is math. It really is a series of mathematical formulas, equations, etc., that bring out these predictive outcomes. So folks will tell you that machine learning is not AI. I would disagree. I think machine learning is one area that fits into the broader technological area of artificial intelligence. But at its core, it's math. It's a series of inputs that's run through a series of neural networks and technological formulas that have a predictive outcome, right? And so as you're thinking about AI regulation, one of the things that I tell policymakers around the world that we have to be careful about is taking such an expansive view of what AI is. And the current moment that we're in with chatbots and humans being able to have like direct interaction with this, we run the risk of like forgetting that AI really is math. And we start thinking about the implications of AI and putting the label artificial intelligence on things that may or may not actually be artificial intelligence. It could just be formulas or algorithms. And AI is becoming like a euphemism for all algorithms. So that's one of the risks, I think, when we start getting into how do we regulate this thing that really is mathematical equations and kind of basic in some ways, in other ways it's super advanced. So I think that's the caution. And if you're going to define AI, I would say it is this body of work in the advanced mathematics space that allows for predictive outcomes from given inputs.
Great point. One thing I'd add to that is a lot of people call me or they probably call us and say, hey, I want to do AI, I want to do this. Really, what I always say back to them, let's actually focus on what problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And AI may be a technology strategy to help you get there, or it may not be. There's so many different ways to approach it. The problem is there's this balance of a lot of people feel forced to get into AI because that's where funding is. That's what's at the top of our conversations right now. But for me, it's like we focus on the problems or the things, the big question we have as an organization or as a person or as a society. AI may be a tool to get us there in a more efficient way.
Yeah, but
We have space for one more question, so we're going to respect.
the thanks. This
Thank you, Dale. Listen, to one of the points you made about AI and the fact that we need to engage and educate communities about what it is because that divide will increase. Have you seen any examples of like initiatives or programs that really go into communities and help them understand what it is? Because AI, to your point, is so, depending on who you talk to, is a different definition, and it's just so big. And so when it comes to what AI means in healthcare, in education, or workforce, or whatever it is, like, what have you seen, and Alice, too, like, have you seen initiatives where we're actually talking to people and saying, like, this is how it impacts, again, your health, your what, like, whatever that is, so that we can just get people, even if it's not about jobs and create opportunities for them to work, it's more so like AI is going to impact you regardless. And again, it's so big, like, how do we just inform communities who are not at conferences like this about like how it's going to affect their everyday life, kind of like what Al said, it's going to impact us every day. So have you guys seen anything like that?
Yeah, good question. And then the short answer is yes. I mean, it's the topic du jour. Everyone's talking about it. Some of the strategies that we're using is trying to find like the biggest megaphone to get this out while looking at AI in verticals and how it's being applied in verticals. I love what Al said earlier, that AI is a tool for solving problems. So some of the things that I've seen is our teams going into the healthcare sector, for example. Getting like ministries of like health ministries around the world to think about how AI can be used, for example, for image analysis, right? Rather than having doctors that have to look at these X-ray or MRI images, AI can do that much more efficiently, much more accurately than the human eye can these days. Let's apply that in that space, right? In the financial sector, in the education sector, et cetera. So that's some of the strategies that I've seen is trying to get, you're at the Minister of Health or Minister of Education or Secretary of Education in the U.S. context, and getting that kind of broadcasting the application of AI in this space and why everyone should be thinking about how to make it useful.
Thank you. Only thing I'd add to that question is that's the challenge right now. It's not getting down to the people in our colleagues, people in our communities that need it the most right now. So I think that's something that we have to figure out. I think there's so many resources, like Wilson said, and the information's out there. The thing that's a benefit for us is there's things like YouTube where you can learn. There's things like on LinkedIn Learning you can learn about AI. And there's also paid courses. The one thing is that we're all distracted because there's so much content out there. And one of the things I think will be important as a society and also education system, AI, to Wilson's point about is being math. AI should be a math course in our high school, middle school, just like calculus, trigonometry is. It's happening in China right now. It's happening in other places across the world. And we have a tendency in different education systems not to go deep on it. but it's going to be a strategic and global issue going down at this point. So my hope is the same way there's STEM programs all over in the K through 12 in the United States and other places, there's AI programs that have that same deep root. Let's get very specific about it. We want to expose kids to technology and STEAM as well. Now let's do some AI-powered tools and programs at the middle school level that it really show the benefit of how that math actually translates to job opportunity and growth as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching this panel. That's it. Thank you all. Thank you, Wilson. Give it up for them, please.
Looks good.